What's going on, everybody? It's Dr. Chris Featherstone here for yet another episode of UnSKripted. It's Tuesday night. You know what that means, ladies and gentlemen. I have some of the best wrestlers' names from today, yesteryear, tomorrow, and everywhere in between. And this one is no different, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I used to be a really big SNL fan from probably about 1989 to about 1999. I probably watched every single episode of Saturday Night Live. I was a huge SNL fan, okay? One of the main characters out of many people who are close to me know that Chris Farley was my all-time favorite actor. But there was another person by the name of Adam Sandler, all right? And one of his many characters was Opera Man, bye-bye. And this person has blown Adam Sandler out the water. He has made Opera Man look like a dwarf, ladies and gentlemen. He is Drama King Matt, formerly known as Aiden English, former NXT Tag Team Champion. How are you, my man?
Oh, my God. That you know what? I have done about 1.5 million podcasts over like the last year or so, etc. And I've never gotten an Opera Man reference. That is a first, and I freaking love it.
Thank you. Man. Thank you. How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, man. Before we get into these questions, which they are loading up, man, let the listeners know where to find you and any events you got coming up, man.
No, sure. And it's luckily with, especially here in the US, with the world kind of starting to come back to a little bit, stuff is starting to happen. So it's exciting for fans. It's exciting for me and a lot of other workers in the business and stuff too. So me, you can still find me, though. I'm at Drama King Matt on Twitch. I've been there for the last year. I'm loving that side of things, so check that out, twitch.tv/Drama King Matt. I'm Drama King Matt on Instagram, Twitter, all the usual socials. And then as well, I got my little Wrestling with Whiskey side project, too. That's on Instagram as well as YouTube, youtube.com/Wrestling with Whiskey. Reviews, interviews, that's where I do my podcast, Straight Shooting, where I surprise my wrestling friends with samples of whiskey and force them to taste them on air, much to their chagrin. And I kind of walk them through a tasting, and when we talk about life and stuff. So that's where I've been the last year. And then, got a couple of events coming. A lot of stuff is it's rolling in every day now that places are starting to open up. Got bookings in July, and then we got Pennsylvania, places like PPW. I've got the Indie Wrestling Expo in August, on August 7th in Fort Worth, Texas. New Breed Entertainment on August 1st in Messina, New York, so on and so forth, and stuff's rolling in every week. So hopefully it'll be a good summer and fall for both wrestlers and wrestling fans.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Are you in Florida? Are you stay there? Or are you where you stay?
No. So I was in Florida, obviously, for a long time with WWE and NXT, but then I'm born and bred Chicago, and when I was able to, after I went to the main roster, I moved back. I'm home, baby.
Very nice. Awesome, man. Well, my all-time favorite basketball team is the Bulls. So
yes, repeat the three-peat, baby. Yes. Probably never again, but
yeah, I just had that conversation recently, man. I'm a diehard Bulls fan, and it's one of those things, man. I jumped on the wagon in the '90s, actually right before they started winning rings. I actually started liking the Bulls during their feud with the Pistons back in the late '80s when they the Bad Boys. And so when the Pistons were the Bad Boys, I started to become a Bulls fan, and I was like, you know what's so crazy? Like the Bulls is a '90s team. Like their whole franchise was based on the '90s, and that's it.
Yes.
Like, that's it, man. And so it's one of those things that we tried. We tried. Ben Gordon, Lou Aldang. I'm a big Duke fan. Lou Aldang, of course, Derrick Rose. Jimmy Butler. We tried to Joakim Noah. We tried to sprinkle some people in there the past decade or so. But we're a '90s team, man, and that's what he was.
And here's the thing, too, man. Like, we'll tie it into wrestling. There's something about those '90s Bulls too that, again, like you said, and since then and in recent memory, there've been incredible players. You've got you've got your Kobe, rest in peace and everything like that. And of course, LeBron, all the incredible talent, of course. But there was something about that, that '90s Bulls team, where you had your star, your top guy, Michael Jordan. Yeah, you had good mid card guys. You had Pippen,
the man in the middle.
But then you also had these wild card Rodman, who was a character, a gimmick into himself. So it was a whole wrestling roster.
Yes.
A basketball team. You know what I mean? We need more we got a lot of talent, but man, we need more stars and balanced cards and stuff with some of these teams. So
90s Bulls was its own gimmick. You had the and then,
oh my God, United Center,
commentary. Baby. Yes, the commentary. Your Chicago Bulls,
so good.
It was so you had to pop over that stuff, man. It was great.
It was awesome.
Good. Yeah, it was, man. You ready to jump into these questions, man?
Please, absolutely.
Awesome. James starts off with what was it like working with Leva Bates, Blue Pants, in 2015?
Oh, snap. Good question to start. I was totally expecting a Rusev Day question to pop this thing off, but no, I love that you went back to Blue Pants and Leva and everything. That was such a fun, but I'll admit, kind of random thing. Which a lot of the vaudevillain stuff with NXT kind of was at first, but man, and it's fun. I just got to kind of reconnect with her. I play Among Us with the AEW people every so often for their live stream and stuff too. That she plays all the time. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and it was totally kind of happenstance. We were doing the thing with Blake and Murphy, and they had recently brought on Alexa Bliss to kind of complete that package, which still to this day, criminally kind of underrated trio that probably I think should have made their way to SmackDown or Raw as a unit. They were so good, and we just kind of needed a counter to her because she was kind of part of that storyline. She kept slapping the crap out of us on TV. And I love Lexi, but and then just before that, Big Cass and Enzo were doing the thing, and with Carmella, and then Blue Pants was there as kind of an extra. Leva was there as working NXT as an extra, and they did the whole thing she was doing kind of her X-Men cosplay, but then Cass sang the song the da-da-da-da, it was just so weird. And then I'll be honest, I don't know how they got from the little thing they were doing with Carmella to hey, we'll bring her in to counter Alexa with Blake and Murphy. I don't know the inside details on that. That said, a roundabout way of saying she was a lot of fun to work with. I'm glad I've kind of gotten to reconnect with her a little bit, but that was such a fun time in general for all of us in NXT.
Yeah, I agree. It was fun to watch. Guillermo saying, asking how did Evolve Villains gimmick was born, and I have to say that I really like the black and white effect of the entrance and backstage segments.
Well, thank you very much, Guillermo. The Vaudevillains gimmick was another kind of happenstance thing. I had been on NXT for a little bit, probably like 7-8 months, like as a character, right? I came out with the singing entrances, did some enhancement matches, kind of thing. Then I got into the big thing with Big Cass. We did the singing contest, had a couple matches and stuff like that. And then after that, I did like 1 or 2 more matches, and then they didn't have anything set in stone for me after that, and so they were kind of looking for something for me. Meanwhile, Simon had gotten to the Performance Center, was signed to a contract, and had what at the time was doing like Rosebud stuff with Adam Rose on the both at NXT and on the road. And which a random group that had so much Becky Lynch was in the Rosebuds,
Braun
Strowman, Elias,
yeah.
Simon Gotch,
Becky Lynch, Becky Lynch, yeah.
So many random people.
Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah, I'm sure we're missing a person.
I'm sure.
Right?
Yeah. But so I got the story, I wasn't told a lot of this directly. Kind of got it secondhand. The coaches and stuff at the Performance Center were basically like, Hunter was looking around. They were trying to get tag teams going because the Ascension was kind of uncontested for a long time. So they look. This is when Blake and Murphy started to come. This is when the Revival kind of started to come to be. This is kind of when American Alpha started to come to be. Enzo and Cass. They were looking to build that tag division. So they were looking for something for me to do. Simon was there. He had this unique look. He was doing the strongman gimmick. I had this singer gimmick. They're like, it's something theatrical there with those two. Put something together. So they came running to us the next day at like the PC after like, you guys, you're going to be in a tag team. Come up with something is basically what they told us. And they were like, okay, go. And we were like, okay. And at this point, I don't really know Simon Seth that well. And like we had talked once or twice, we were, did promo days together, not in the same promo, but just like as a group. And so a lot of people were throwing around like old school, again, the old time strongman, old school theater, vaudeville, stuff like that. So I went home and I was just sitting on my bed. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I'm like, okay, they keep saying vaudeville, black and white. I get it. Old timey, sure. Vaudeville. I assume we're going to be bad guys. Villains will be vaudevillain. Hey, that sounds corny enough to be something the WWE would use. Not thinking they would actually use it. And then sure enough, we kind of pitched that and they were like, great. And we immediately started working like live events together. And literally within probably 2 to 3 weeks, we were on TV debuting.
Very nice. Yeah. And it worked too. It was definitely a really, really good type of dynamic that y'all had. So
it was different.
Yeah, it was. But it was effective though. What do you think of Miro's run in AEW? There's your Rusev Miro.
No, Miro, I'm super proud of him, man. For real. Like he again, we got released at the same time. And you obviously that was a guy who people had been saying for years had just like hadn't been quite. He had a hell of a run doing the US title thing, wrestling Cena at Mania, all that stuff. But then just even with the Rusev Day stuff, people were waiting them to really pull the trigger on him. And so to see him go somewhere, especially after the Rusev Day stuff, when neither one of us were really given much of anything. And so to see him go somewhere and given the chance to kind of be himself and not only like, yeah, he's the killer Miro. He's the killer, this Bulgarian brute. He is this badass. He's a big guy. He's a really great wrestler. But then like to let him be himself, talk about who he is and stuff like that, and be very successful. And I talked to a lot of my friends over there, and like there is this open environment over there. And so, yeah, man, I'm super happy for him. I'm super proud of him. Great run so far as the TNT champion. I can't hope nothing but the best.
Yeah. And you said something really interesting there as far as just like them not, kind of pulling a trigger, so to speak, on the Rusev Day gimmick. And you were there, just really, you were just as influential in the Rusev Day gimmick as he was, I would say. And it just seemed like they were just kind of suppressing the pops by keeping him heel. Was there any talks to turn in y'all babyface at all?
Not serious talks, which was too bad. And like, here's the thing: like, I'm not that. There's a lot of people out there who, the minute they get a pop on something, go, oh, turn me. I'm going to be the next big babyface world champion. Like the minute a big city on TV pops for them, they go, let's do it. Now, I don't agree with that. Like, let's. You know what I mean? Like, let's work. And sometimes people, if you give it to them too hard, too fast, we've seen it with other people, then people turn on it.
Yeah.
So I was okay. I'm like, yeah, let's fine. We'll say kind of our characters. We'll play the heel against people like New Day, against people like Usos, stuff like that. Fine. But I thought, and I think a lot of other people did, it did kind of reach a little bit of a critical mass point. Sometime shortly after I want to say that Christmas time, we did some of those multi-man matches with like Usos, New Day, Gable and Benjamin, leading even into WrestleMania with Rusev going for the US title. I'm like, right around there, I'm like, you could have easily, and we talked with New Day about this a lot. They were like, they were the same thing. Like, they were heels and they kind of stayed there for a little bit, but at one point the audience it was just too much. You had to do the flip. And I'm like, I think we're there. And I think we could do a similar kind of thing. I'm like, we can still be the same Rusev Day, the entrances, and Miro can be who he is. I can be who I am. I'm like, we just kind of move to the other side of the ring.
Yeah.
And, like, beat me up and have Miro run a comeback. And it's essentially the same thing. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think the boss man saw, especially Miro, as, he's the big foreign brute heel, which he's very good at. But I think that was just stuck in the boss's mind, unfortunately. So no real conversations about turning babyface, unfortunately.
Very interesting. Let's see here. Elvis is asking, hello there, Jobber King Matt. I've been a fan of yours for long, and I had a sign at a house show in 2007 or 2018 that said Happy Aiden Day. How's it being part of the most legendary Guerrero family?
Oh, well, Elvis, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you for the Happy Aiden Day sign. I appreciate that. Was a lot of fun. How is it being part of the Guerrero family? This is always such an awkward question, because I think it's one of those things that fans ask from like a fan perspective, right? Like, oh, like the family of Gory Guerrero and Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero. Like, ooh, it must be like so. I always feel like people are asking, like, it must be so cool. And like, forgive the kind of terminology, but a mark out kind of moment. But I'm like, for me, it's family.
Yep.
And not a gimmick family, this is my wife's family. And that was never a factor in meeting her and dating her and falling for each other and stuff like that. So it's an honor just to be able to communicate with and be a part of any family that has such a legacy. But to me, it's less of a business and a wrestling thing. And it's my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law and my, uncles and stuff, in-laws. And it's a good family. And I don't even think about the wrestling side of it. I think about Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff.
It was an FCW that you and Shaw met?
I'm trying to think. Yes. So we met originally in FCW when I first came down, like in early 2012. She was there. She was doing very well. But at that time, she was dating someone else, and she was kind of struggling with that. She's been very public about like her eating disorder and everything like that. She was struggling with that. So we didn't really connect there. We communicated, we interacted a few times and got along. That's where I kind of started to like her, because I respect. Ladies and gentlemen, never underestimate talent and confidence being more attractive than anything physical. Like she was confident. She was funny. She was a badass. She was clever. That's what really drew me to her. And she was very, very pretty. But, so yeah, then she went she went home to kind of take care of herself. She got herself into rehab to kind of address the eating disorder and everything. And then when she came back in NXT, we had already moved to Orlando Performance Center. When she came back for that, that's when we really met and kind of really started talking, and when we first started dating.
Wow. And y'all got married in 16?
Yeah, right at the January of 2016.
Wow. So 5 years in, man. How's it feel?
Yes, indeed. No, it's good, man. Like, it's a good feeling. One, like it was so easy at the beginning, just because it was like, you found your person kind of thing. Like everything felt easy. We didn't have to work to like see, like we wanted to be with each other all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, in the years since in a marriage, we've had our share of struggles and everything. This year especially has been incredibly hard for us. But at the end of the day, even on your worst day, that's the person you want to go to bed with and wake up to and everything like that. That's how you know you have your person. So we're doing very well.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Yeah, I'm this is 11 for me, and yeah, it gets I'm a couples therapist, and so marriage is what you make it, man. So you can it can be the worst, or you can enjoy it more by by the year. So it's what you make it. So
absolutely.
Yep. Reese was asking, was it uncomfortable doing the one night Milwaukee storyline with Lana? How was that pitched to you?
So it wasn't like, I'm not uncomfortable in the sense of, oh, you've got to do a romantic or like even fake romantic angle with someone, or even if you had to, I am both, and especially both me and my wife, we're both performers, so we get it. There's no issue with doing something romantic or even a little bit sexual or whatever, if it's for the part. So that part wasn't uncomfortable. The idea of like, I had to fake this affair with Lana or whatever, that was never an issue. You know what made me uncomfortable? That it was just a bad idea.
Yeah.
That it was just crummy storytelling. Yeah. And I'm like, you have all this meat on the vine. If you really wanted to split us up, which we didn't want to do anyway, I'm like, fine. But you have all this meat on the vine of just, okay, I can be mad at her for splitting us up maybe, and be jealous, be all this stuff, and just make it just really personal. Be like, hey, make it about Rusev Day and her taking him away from me and like breaking up a great team, as opposed to this like tawdry, like not even C movie, like D movie level, like soap opera.
Bush League. Yeah.
Real Bush League, and it lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, great. So that's what was uncomfortable of it. Just the idea of like, because we had all these ideas and I did anyway. I'm like, all right, if we're going to break up, we're going to do this, and I felt good after we had the big turn. I beat the crap out of him with the microphone, all this stuff. And I'm like, we could make this a real personal feud. Yeah. And just straight up like old school wrestling, tag team breaks up over a woman. Like this could be freaking good stuff. And then it all has to be a cheesy gimmick. And we fought against it, but there was just nothing. Again, boss's mind was settled and it was what it was.
Did he give you like an end game of why y'all were splitting up?
We never talked to him personally about it. We never got it. This was all through writers and producers and stuff like that. And any suggestion was just like, well, this is what they want. It was the classic, just like, this is what they want. I'm like, but we could do this. Yeah, but this is what they want.
But even with this is what they want. I mean, in hindsight, it really didn't help either one of you.
Nope.
I mean, and so like when I hear stuff like this is what they want, what's the end game? What are we leading to here? And
if I'm to venture a guess, the end game was to just end it. There was no plan. Like, and even like my thing was like, I try to be a virtuous guy, and I'm like, you know what, this all sucked. But even me, I'm like, I'll try to get something new going. And I was pitching ideas and stuff like that. But I'm like, at least fine. Then take my friend, take Miro, and like, he beat the shit out of me after 2 weeks of crummy stories. Have him go on and do some awesome stuff. If you get him solo again and have him go after Intercontinental title, world title, like, have him do something awesome. Yeah. And even he didn't. He was middling for a while. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
So I think it was just the boss never truly got the Rusev Day thing, wanted it ended, and it was just like, what's the fastest way we can do it? And wow, it's an unfortunate story. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It really is to me, just as a spectator. It's just like, for what? Like at least keep something together that has some steam to it instead of splitting it. And like, you just cut the legs off of two talent here that was working at the time, that people were getting drawn to. Like you and Rusev at the time were two of the biggest, the biggest segments of, each Raw. People were excited to see, you in the ring and started singing and all that, like the whole deal. And it's like you just cut the legs off of both of you. And in hindsight, it was just like it really didn't seem like from the very beginning that there was something going with this turn here, with this split up. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate to see. Yeah. How is it working with Enzo?
And I mean, I got along. I feel like someone's asking, we're going to reference the infamous Simon Gotch shoots on Enzo Amore. That's how I always get tied into these Enzo questions. But on YouTube, it's been viewed 8 million times.
Yeah.
No, so me and Enzo always had a good working relationship. And it's funny, we actually started our WWE careers kind of together. So when I got signed, and whenever anybody gets signed, they fly them. At least I think this is still the thing. They fly them to Pittsburgh, where their medical kind of department is headquartered, and they go through to do a physical. They do a drug test. They do the kind of usual medical checkups. And I went with him. So I flew in from Chicago. He flew in from New York or whatever. And we met. We had to like share a car and stuff like that. And so that was the first time I ever met him. And I remember at first thinking I would freaking hate him, because I think like we got in touch, but they gave us each other's numbers or whatever so we could just kind of communicate. And he sent me like, and Enzo, if you ever watch this, I love you, buddy. He sent me this promo he had done to kind of send into the WWE, and it was like him with the New York skyline behind him doing kind of like the Enzo thing. And all I could think of was like, oh my God, like another Jersey Shore gimmick, like some kid who, from New York, who's just got a lot of attitude and spunk, which is great, but like doesn't know wrestling. I assumed, that was me assuming. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh great, eye roll kind of thing. And then I met him, and I'll be honest, like, yeah, there's a lot of that in him for sure, the swagger and all that. But after being in a car with him and spending, 8-9 hours with him, the one thing I really loved and I did respect, he was a big wrestling fan. And like, while he didn't do like a bunch of indies or something like that, he grew up loving Shawn Michaels, and he showed me all these pictures of him going to shows and everything. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe your path wasn't the same as a lot of people who like love wrestling and getting into it, but you do love wrestling. Yeah. And so like we always got along for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. Reese is asking what really happened between Gotch and Sin Cara, what caused her backstage fight. I'm sure you've gotten this before.
Yeah, of course. Been a while actually since this one. But honestly, so I remember it very, very vividly, but I wasn't there when it actually happened. So that was in catering. And oh God, I wish I could. It's in Arizona, Tucson. I believe it was Tucson, Arizona was the show. And it was in catering. I was out by the ring. I was like talking to friends and stuff. And I came back, and all I saw was Simon walking towards the doc's office with ice on his face. And I was like, what the hell happened? And so I talked to my friends and people who were there. I don't have all the nitty gritty details, and I'm not someone who's going to say like, oh, I heard this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But they got into a confrontation. Somebody said something. Somebody got angry. The one thing, a soda can was thrown, fists were thrown. And Sakura, man, if you make him mad, I love the guy too. I do. But he gets hot, and he stands up for himself, Mm-hmm. And so I wish I could, give more nitty gritty, but I wasn't actually there, and I'm not someone who's going to try to fill in blanks that I don't have. Sure. But there was something was said, a disagreement happened, and a lot of testosterone in wrestling locker rooms, and then the boys sometimes step up. So that's what happened.
There you go. A couple more. Devesh is asking, how was it backstage at Payback 2016 of that scary Enzo Amore incident? I remember that. Got whipped into the ropes and then was out, man.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it sucked. I mean, without going much more, it sucked. That was all 4 of our main roster pay-per-view debut. Mm-hmm. And the opening match to the show. So what a way to like kill momentum and everything. Right. It sucked all around. It was such a heartbreak. And first and foremost, I was worried about Enzo himself. And it was in my home city of Chicago, so not the way I wanted to make my first appearance in Chicago. All this stuff was just like, it was just so terrible. And finding out he ended up being okay was luckily was a good thing. But man, it was hard. And we had, and we've talked about this before, but like we had done that with them on house shows on NXT Road Loops a lot. And 9 times out of 10, it went fine. And so I have to say, this is one of those things, man, where it's an accident. I mean, it happens. Pro wrestling's tough. And sometimes the thing, I'll reference briefly the Seth Rollins knee incident. I mean, he did the little sunset powerbomb. I'm sure he's done that to a million guys. Your knee hits differently one time. Out it goes. Same thing here. We've done that. He's baseball slid 800 times with us on the road. This time, something was 1 second off. Hit it harder than expected. Bang, bang, ricochet, and he was out. But thank God he was okay. And hopefully we were able to move on. But terrible, terrible feeling that night.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's a ton more questions left, but I do want to respect your time, man. So let the listeners know about, once again, where to find you on social media, my man.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate all your guys' questions. You guys are awesome. You're what make this whole crazy profession and world go round. Drama King Matt, you can find me. It's right there below me, but at Drama King Matt on socials, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Drama King Matt on Twitch. I'm there 3-4 times a week. Come check it out. And then Wrestling with Whiskey is on Instagram as well as YouTube. And that's where the podcast Straight Shooting is, as well as on all listening platforms. So come hang out.
Awesome, man. Man, it's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate you availing your time for me. I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I did too. Appreciate it, Chris.
Have a good night.